The reason is because an ox did work. An ox that did work, that was like that was like owning a factory. That was so. However, let's say he says egel. He says I'm going to bring a calf. Yavihu in a sachav b'chamish. He has to bring five seller. So 5 seller, 5 dinar. What is chamish? Chamish slan. 5 seller. Okay, it's much less. It's a 1/5 of the, because that's 25. This is 5. Ayel, he says a ram. Yavihu in a sachav b'shtayim. He brings the animal together with the nesachim for only 2 seller. Keves, yavihu in a sachav b'seller. A lamb, he brings it all with it together with the seller, together with the nesachim. So in other words, these amounts that we're giving is including the animal and the wine and the flour and the oil that comes along with it. Let's say he specified shar b'mana. I'm going to bring a shar for a mana, which is actually the amount that he's supposed to bring. But there's just one problem. Here, the whole shar is a mana. Before, if he just says a shar, then he brings the nesachim with it. So here, yavi mana chutz min nesachav. He can't bring the nesachim part of the mana. That's on top of it. Egel b'chamish, yavi b'chamish chutz min nesachav. The same thing. Brings a calf for 5, besides for the nesachim. Ayel b'shtayim, a ram for 2. So yavi b'shtayim chutz min nesachav. He brings a ram for 2, but the nesachim is on top of that. Keves b'sela, a sheep for 1 sela. Yavi b'sela chutz min nesachav. He brings for a sela, besides for the nesachim. Shar b'mana. Let's see. He said, "I'm going to bring a shar for 1 mana." The hevi shnayim b'mana, but instead he brings 2 animals that cost a mana. He said he's going to bring 1, but he brings 2 animals of lesser value that add up to a mana. La yatsa. That he didn't fulfill his donation. Afilu zeb b'mana chasadina v'zeb b'mana chasadina. Even if he was bringing much more, this one was almost a mana. 1 dinar off a mana. That's 99. Right? A mana is 100. And the second one was also 99. Right? He's bringing 198 dinar, and he only promised 100. He's bringing a lot more. He didn't fulfill his obligation because he promised he's going to bring a shar b'mana. Shachar ve'hevi lavan. He's going to bring a black one, but he brought a white one. Lavan ve'hevi shachar. Gadol ve'hevi katan. A big one, and he brought a small one. La yatsa. He didn't fulfill. What about katan ve'hevi gadol?
Seems like it's fine.
Yatsa. Katan ve'hevi gadol, because included in the big one is the small one. You brought a larger one. You have a little one in there, right? Rabbi Yomi la yatsa. Rabbi says no. We had this yesterday regarding a mincha. If someone accepts on himself a mincha, so Rabbi's opinion was that if he doesn't remember what size mincha, you have to bring a 1, a 2, 3, 4, 5. You have to bring all the different sizes until 60. And the Rabbanan said you can bring just 60. And Rav Ashi explained the machlekes that the Rabbanan hold that included in the 60 are all the smaller sizes. And Rabbi says, no, you don't say that. Okay, so the Gemara asks, why do we need both this Mishnah and that Mishnah? And it explained the difference. Okay, originally we said that if someone specifies that he's going to bring an Eily, so it says he brings a keves. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah says he can bring a tar and a ben yaina, a bird. The Gemara says, v'lei pligi, marki asrei, marki asrei. It depends. Some places the birds were better than the animals. A small animal, the birds were more goose.
Desirable.
More desirable. It wasn't a goose, but it was. The Rambam doesn't accept this interpretation.
No.
He doesn't. He says that it would be impossible for. At least that's how they explain the Rambam. Rashi is learning that it could be that the sheep is worth less, is worse than the bird. And my other Gemara had an explanation for the Rambam that explains it differently. The Rambam in the Persian Mishnayos. Let's just see where it is over here. They bring this also. But Rambam Mefarish that Marki Asrei, that in the place of the Tanakama, Eily meant an animal. But in the place of Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, they would call an Eily Sa'oif Eily. That's what they would call it, not Marki Asrei. Asrei means the place.
Well, they in their place, that's what they called it.
That's how the Rambam learns this, not like Rashi and Rabbi Gershon. Okay. Tanu Rabbanon. The rabbis taught in the Braisa, Harei alai oila b'sela lemizbeach. If someone accepts on himself to bring an oila for a coin to the mizbeach, yavi keves. You bring a lamb. Shein lecha davar shekarev b'sela l'gam mizbeach ala keves. Is that what we said? Yes. We said that if someone says he's going to bring a lamb, so he brings it all for a sela. One sela, which is 4 zuz. And el keves shekarev b'sela. Pirashti ve'ini diyama pirashti. He specified an oila, but he doesn't remember which one. Yavi mikol davar shekarev b'sela l'gam mizbeach. He has to bring. No. Here he says clearly, he says an oila for a sela. But here, pirashti, I said something for a sela. I don't remember if it's an oila. So he has to bring everything that could be brought for a sela. Now, it doesn't explain what these things are. We know it's a keves, but there could be other things, which is, it needs to be anything that's whole. It doesn't explain.
Flour, levin.
That would be hard because those are measurements. It needs to be something that's whole. Maybe it could be an isaran or something. It needs to be a full thing that could be purchased for a seller. Okay, pirashti min abakar ve'ini diyama pirashti yavi parve'egal. This is when he accepts on himself an oila that's going to come from the bakar, cattle, which is a cow family. So he brings a male cow and he brings a calf. Amai. V'leisei par. Just let him bring a big one. And mimanavshach. And automatically included in the big cow is the small calf, according to the Rabbanan. The Gemara answers Hamani Rebbe. It's Rebbe's opinion. The Amar Katan, Vehevi Gadol La Yatsa, because Rebbe holds that you can't bring a big one and say that there's a little one inside it. Not pregnant, a little included in the big one is the little one. Gemara says, 1 second. You can't say that the beginning of the Mishnah is Rebbe. I Rebbe ema seifa. Read the end of the Mishnah. Shar b'mana vehevi shnayim b'mana la yatsa. If you pledge a shar for 1 man and you bring 2 of them that cost the mana, so it means each one is worth only 50. You're not yaitza. It's going through the whole Mishnah. Shachar vehevi lavan, black, and he brought white. Lavan vehevi shachar, gadol vehevi katan, a big one, but he brought a small one. La yatza. Katan vehevi gadol yatza. If you bring a small one, if you pledge a small one, you bring a big one, you're yaitza. Rabbi Yomer la yatza. Rabbi says you don't fulfill the obligation. Now, the problem here is Reisha v'Seifa Rebbe. If the beginning of the Mishnah is Rebbe, the end of the Mishnah gets Rebbe as well. But who was the middle opinion? Mitzias Rabbanan. So this Mishnah was so it went back and forth between the opinions. It wasn't clear. It should have said Rebbe's opinion all the way at the end, all of Rebbe's opinion. So the Gemara says in Reisha v'Seifa Rebbe Mitzias Rabbanan. That's talking what the Mishnah is doing. It's the beginning is Rebbe, the end is Rebbe, in the middle is the Rabbanan, v'hachi kamar, and this is what the Mishnah wanted to say. Davar zeh, machlekes Rebbe v'Rabbanan. It starts off the Mishnah saying Rebbe's opinion. And then it says, and you should know that this is a machlekes Rebbe and the Rabbanan, and it says the Rabbanan's opinion and Rebbe's opinion. Okay. Tanan Hassam, we can start this and we'll just stop at the end of the page.
Tanan Hassam is a continuation or it's just something new they're trying to improve?
It has to do with the donations, mixing what someone pledges.
Right, if they find the money on the floor.
Okay, we'll start it then. Shisha Linadava. We learned this. We mentioned this before also that there were six pushkas in the temple, and they were used for donations. And the money in that was used when the altar was empty. They would bring from there. Connected me. What were these corresponding to? We brought an opinion before what they were. Now we have several opinions here, and it says Simin Kampf Jah. Now each one is going to respond to one of these following
Is this Rabbi Yehuda? Who gave the simon?
The simanim were usually put in by the. Actually, Rabbi Yehuda uses simanim, but
Right.
usually the simanim in the Gemara were the Rabbanan Savarai. I think the later.
The editors.
That's what they claim. There's a different version in the Shita Mekubetzes that says Knaz Pesha, and it stands for Chizkiah, Yochanan, Zeiri, Pada, Shmuel, and Oishia. Those are the names. Our simon is not standing for the names. Our simon is standing for what they said.
Well, Pesha, the last three letters of it spells Pesha also.
Right.
So the Knaz is the tricky part because that doesn't agree
Right.
with Mem.
We'll see. It goes like this. Amar Chizkiah. Chizkiah says, "Keneged Shisha Bati Avis, Avis Akayinim, Shetikun Lam Chachamim, Shiyu Shalom Zemzeh." The kuf of Shetiknu would be the first one of the sign, but the explanation for Chizkiah, what is he saying, is that the Kainim were divided up into 24 families. And then each family was divided up into either 6 or 7. According to this Gemara, it's divided into 6. There's other opinions that say it was 7 for Shabbos as well. The one that says 6 says that on Shabbos they all work together. But it was Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So, they didn't want... What would happen is like this. That the Kayanim would keep certain parts of the animal. Let's say it was Eily, they would keep the skin. So, the beginning of the week, there would be all of this extra money, and they would, or maybe the Mizbeach was empty. They would use up all the money for the Eilis. The Kainim would get all the skin. At the end of the week, it could be that they wouldn't get anything. And so the first ones would say no, because they had access to it, so they would quickly use it up. There would become fights in between the families. So we said no. We divided it up for each day, so that this was they had a specific one, and they wouldn't fight over that. Rabbi Yochanan Amar Mitechshan Adav Meruba Tiklam Shefes Merubin K'dish Le'Yisaf Shal Mayis. There's a problem. If the coins would get filled up to the top, then the coins could go rotten, especially if they're copper or something. They turn green and they could rot. But if there's less coins in it, the air gets into it, it doesn't rot so fast. So that's why they needed more spacious pushkas. So they had 6 of them. Zeiri Amar Kneged Par Ve'egel Ayel Ve'keves Gedi V'sar, that they corresponded to people that donated these different animals, and there was money left over, so it would go into there. And V'Rebihi, and it goes according to Rabbi, Damar Katan Ve'Hivigadol Layatza. So you couldn't put it all into the same pot. Otherwise, if it would go into this, according to Rabbi, even if you brought a larger one, if you would bring a larger one, that would satisfy the smaller animal. So, but according to the Tanakama, that's how it works. According to Rabbi, it doesn't work like that. So according to Rabbi, we need to have, if someone donates a par, so he has to put his money into the par one, and he would get from that specifically the right animal. What's the problem? The guy's bringing his animal anyway. The Kainim would use this money to buy animals. So the money that was in the shofar that said par on it, they would have to use it only to buy the paras, only the parim rather. What would happen if they would switch? And he would get his from the other coins. For some reason, that's a problem. I don't know why that's a problem, because I guess this money needs to be specifically used for that. You see, it's a little different than what we learned in the Mishnah. In the Mishnah was, if he designates an egel, and if he brings a par, that's fine. Oh, I guess he's not actually bringing it. What's happening is he's donating money for a par. So it has to go in that's going to be brought without him. So if they bring the wrong animal because they put the money into the different ones, so then he didn't fulfill his obligation. It's not that he's bringing it; they're bringing it for him. Okay. Bar Padamar Keneged Aparim Ve'elim Va'Kvasim Va'Seirim Va'Maisris Va'Maisris. Okay, he has a whole bunch of different things that why there should be money left over. So he's saying that, let's say an animal got lost, so they had to designate another one, and they found the first one, so that money would go into the first shayfer. Eilim was if it was Asham Gazelas that got lost, and they designated another one, so they would bring. Only one of them was brought. The other one, the money would get used for. Would get a mum, and the money would go into there. Hakvasim is also an Asham Nazir or Asham Mitzaira that also got lost. So it would get a mum, and you would put the money into there. And the Seirim were Seirei Chata Shel Tzibar. Also, the money, if there was an extra one, the money would go into that. And then Bahamaisris is anyone that designated any of these, and there was money left over, so then that would go into the Maisris. And Bahama is when you exchanged money, you had to add a little coin that was added. It's called a kalbain, and so that money would go into this extra one. Okay, the Gemara is going to discuss this later.